For we learn a JDBC, Spring JDBC with the JDBC template and named parameter template, and we learn Hibernate integration also. Okay, we learned Hibernate integration for DAO operations. For integrating Hibernate, you can write configurations, or else you can use Spring ORM based configuration classes also for integration. Okay, Spring ORM based configurations also you can use in Spring Boot. Nothing to do, but yeah, as we are seeing old version of Spring right now here, right? I'll be showing you how to use the Spring ORM integration layer to integrate with Hibernate. Usually, when we want to connect DAO with Hibernate, what we have done, we created entity, we configured it in configuration file. Configuration file is having all the drivers information. Then we created or we loaded this configuration class to create session factory under @config @bean method, and that @bean we have auto wired into DAO for prod operations. Right? This is what we have done. Entity created, configured it in config class, and we created one configuration class, Spring configuration class with @bean to create session factory under configuration. Then we injected that session factory into required repositories. Right? So this logic we have implemented, @bean logic we have implemented under that @bean configuration logic we have added to create session factory. So that it is creating integration session factory object. Instead of using this, we can use Spring given integration classes also. Okay, Spring given integration classes also to create your session factory using Spring ORM. Spring ORM. Using Spring ORM classes also you can do this stuff. Okay, what is the benefit? Nothing much, but let's see the difference. Instead of having annotation configuration class here, annotation session factory bean, there is a factory bean class we have. Using this annotation session factory bean class, you can set data source object, means your connection pool object you can pass factory bean dot set annotated classes or packages, which all classes you have with annotations. All the classes you can set here. Factory bean dot set dialect properties, set hibernate properties. All hibernate properties also we can set here. Hibernate properties in the sense your dialect, show SQL, HBM to DDL, all such properties. So when I go with this factory bean concept, when I go with this factory bean concept, what I can avoid is you can avoid hibernate configuration files here. You need not to have separate hibernate configuration file. This is belongs to hibernate here, right? The configuration file that you can avoid. Without this hibernate configuration file, directly you can create the session factory. Okay, so you can avoid this file. You can avoid directly. You can configure your entity in @bean, so that multiple configurations files you never see in the application. You may not see one hibernate file and one spring file. So this file complete file we can avoid. Complete file we can avoid, and you can configure all your properties here directly in the programmatic way without any XML file. Okay, so it is required one data source object. So you create that. We know how to create data source. Use this approach. Now use this data source. Use this data source here, so that this will substitute these properties. If you are maintaining Hibernate configuration file, right, you will be writing all these properties, right, for connection and connection pool. So these five properties can be avoided here with this data source. So data source object given, and what next? There are some Hibernate properties, right, like dialect, HBM to DDL, show HKL. These all are Hibernate specific properties. And finally, your mapping class. So here you can configure your mapping class, or you can configure your mapping package also here. Okay, two ways. Student dot class. This is my mapping class. Annotated classes. It is expecting array of classes. Classes type. You can pass all your classes here. Student is one annotated class. All your annotated classes you can put here. Student, employee. You have multiple beans. You may put all these beans here, or else directly you can use package name also here. There is an extra approach. Directly you can use package name. Annotated packages also you can pass here. Yeah, this class is not there. Just for example, I have written no such class now. That is our entity class. So here I am showing alternative for this session factory. For first five properties I have given data source, and for this property mapping classes, right, I am trying to avoiding this configuration XML file. So somewhere I should substitute all these properties, right? Somewhere I should show alternate for them. So first is achieving all the connection pool properties, and the second you can able to scan your classes, entity classes via package name, or you can use package name also here. String array, Give package. Let's say if you have multiple packages, within one single package, if all your entities are part, mostly same package we will use until unless we don't have any sub packages. So you can give your package also here so that each and every class you need not to configure directly. It would scan your entity also here. Okay. To whom we are giving it, to create session factory for annotation session factory bin I am giving it so that it can create a session factory. And what about this Hibernate properties? It is expecting one properties object here. Expecting a properties object here. New properties. Using this properties, you need to set your Hibernate properties. Put object key and value. So your dialect and the dialect value. Show SQL. All such properties, which all you want. Yes, of course, it is array. So factory bean dot get object. Yes, this is array. Array of packages you can pass here. As I have one, only one I given. Yeah, this is string array syntax. Okay. So let's set Hibernate properties. Annotated session factory bean set Hibernate properties. Actually, one key value pair it will use. Let me see. Hibernate dot something it will use. Annotation session factory bean set Hibernate properties. Set Hibernate properties. For example, I think Hibernate dot must be used. Yeah, Hibernate dot. Okay, and your key. So here you can use Hibernate dot. What properties else I need to configure? Dialect, HBM to DDL dot auto, show SQL. There are so many properties such show SQL, format SQL, like that. And here my dialect class. What is your dialect? For Oracle, org dot Hibernate dot dialect dot Oracle dialect. Put that. And the next property is Hibernate dot show underscore SQL. No, right? HBM to DDL dot auto. So if you want to create table or update, you can use update schema or else validate just to validate. Hibernate dot show underscore SQL true. Set all the properties here. Bus. So by here you have shown a complete alternative approach for this configuration file. Now you need not to use this configuration file in your application. So finally, factory bean dot get object method. This factory bean specially designed for session factory only. So all factory beans will have one method name called get object. Whatever object it is written in, that object you will be getting here. So this annotation session factory being designed for session factory only. So you will be getting session factory. This is a simple factory class. You know, right? Always factory classes will return factory objects, like driver manager dot get connection will return you connection object. Similar way, factory bean dot get object method will return you session factory object. And this is for pure annotations. This is for pure annotations approach. Okay. As I don't want to use any XMLs here, annotations approach I will. So this is also can create your session factory object. So now let's comment this session factory and see how this one will work. And this XML also completely I will comment it. Mapping via annotations only we done. All annotations we used. So now into my DO class session factory object is injected and using this factory to do CRUD operations. Same code. Just instead of Hibernate code I am using here for session factory, I used here Spring integration factory bean code to create my session factory object. Mapping class. So for that I give an alternate. I did alternate for the mapping class here. Here I did that. Set annotated packages or set annotated classes. Okay. So this first statement is equivalent to this 5 lines. Okay. These 5 lines of code achieved here with this create data source. Create data source doing what? Same thing. Driver URL username password with connection. Set max. Up to here this is done. Now these properties dialect auto show SQL all these are Hibernate properties we call. So this properties has been set at here. Dialect HBM to DDL auto show SQL alternative is this creating properties object via properties I have given this three property dialect HBM to DDL HBM to DDL show SQL. Okay. Now that property is given here using set Hibernate properties, and the only missing part is this. Why I need to use annotated classes or annotated packages means when you want to configure your mapping file or mapping classes which are configured via annotations or XML file. Using this factory bean dot set annotated classes, you can configure the same classes here. N number of classes you should be able to configure, right? So that's why array given. Or if you don't want to specify each class, configure package here. Anything will be fine. Okay. So finally, I did just like this. Okay. Finally, I did complete configuration here by avoiding hibernate.cfg.xml file. Now, test this. Just same save operations. You try it. I'll be inserting one more record. Frame. X. Okay. First, insert it. Session factory dot open session not getting. So annotation session factory bean data source. Okay, this is also good. Properties also setting. Why this method is not executed? At the red bean also there, configuration also there. Something is fishy with it. Let me check in debug mode. Debug as Java application. So Hibernate configurations, data source is there. Hibernate properties are there. Dialect, show SQL, auto DDL, HBM to DDL. Auto. Okay, it's good. Why session factory is none? Factory dot get bean method not able to. So this I am getting null. Mm, this is wrong. It is get object only. Factory bean dot get object. Mm, Why even no exception? No, no. Get object should give us straight away session path. For this factory, the only thing my doubt is it is unable to pick up this entity. Let me give class only. See, again run it in debug mode. Next, 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 next. It is unable to export it. So obviously we'll get null pointer exception. I want to understand it more. Will it throw any exception even it is not doing that? Annotation session factory would be any property did I miss nothing. Connections given, mapping class given, properties given. Not even a single exception. Annotation session factory in data source, annotated classes. Yeah, this is the auto commit. Yesterday you were asking, right? Do you have set auto commit connection dot auto commit? Code looks good. No, by default, not added here. Here I am showing. In his example, he added it. Configuration, just a minute, something is. Okay, config dot set property he used. We used to put. Does it shows any difference? If this is set out of a metro and set annotated classes. How we can able to pass here annotated classes? We are array only doing it, right? And why it is calling after property set? Okay. Set packages to scan. See one method they are calling after property set. Extra method after setting up these properties. So this also should be fine. What is this dialog? Okay. Now here before calling this method, factory bean dot after property set. Call this method manually. This is init method of factory bean. Your factory bean init method after property set. Usually they must be executing this after property set for initializing your connection or to initialize your session factory. That is the reason maybe. Okay, let's try one more time. While doing XML based configurations, explicitly we need not to call that because by default after property set method will be executed by your Spring container. But now explicitly it is, yeah, here is actual code executing. So something is running on this line, your Hibernate log is printing here. So here it is created your session factory. Then get object method simply returning your session factory object. Now you got the factory object. Continue. So finally, beta got inside. So you got the data. Frame record got inserted. Do you guys understand this? Why earlier not created? This method explicitly not called. Usually, while doing XML based configurations, okay, all this stuff again we can configure via XML file also. Annotation session factory bean you can configure it in your Spring XML file. Okay, here you can configure it and you can set all that properties. Mandatorily, you need to set all these properties. Which properties? Data source, annotated classes, and these properties. And this method only you can avoid in XML configuration. After property set method is a init method. By default, IOC container will call it. But while I am doing it a programmatic way, we don't know whether you wanted to execute that init or not. So that's why explicitly you are calling it. and this is mandatory before getting your object. This is where all the initialization is happening. Hibernate initialization is happening. Displays Hibernate initialization happening. Okay. Yeah. Now we go one more step ahead. Okay. We used simple Hibernate and we integrated Hibernate with ORM. Apart from this, using plain Hibernate operations here, right? Simple session factory. In ORM, they given one more class named called Hibernate template class, like your JDBC template. So far, we used Hibernate only. Only in integration part, we have taken annotated session factory big class. Okay. So far, we used plain Hibernate only. On top of Hibernate CRUD operations, Spring given Hibernate template class. So this Hibernate template class will simplify your Hibernate code also. CRUD operations code, right? It will simplify it. If you see at least here, you are opening session, beginning transaction, saving it, committing it. At least if it is auto commit true, you may need not to write. But you need to open session and for sure you should close the session. Instead of having this many lines of code here, what I can do, let's create one more DAO. DAO with the Hibernate template. Here instead of session factory, I'll be using Hibernate template. This is a template class like your JDBC template. So while using this template class, you need not to open session, you need not to worry about begin transactions, commit transactions and session closings. Like how you are doing JDBC connection, right? In JDBC template, you need not to open any connection, you need not to create any statement, and you do not need not to close your result sets, connections and all, right? Similarly, Hibernate template dot given save method. Just it will take care of your save. Same here, Hibernate template dot update. It will take care of update method. Yeah, that good question. We need to set it up. We need to set it up. Template needs a session pattern. I'll draw and show you that. Okay. Yes. Yeah. This is your Spring ORM class one. Find by criteria. You can use HQL here. You can use criteria here. Find by criteria. Detached criteria. Or detached criteria for class. Student. Find by criteria. Cannot convert from list to. Okay. So all that operations were simplified here. Criteria on HQLs are simple here. Okay. So see again Hibernate logic itself is simple. That is also reduced here. Just single line operation. Everything. Save, update, delete, select also. But how Hibernate template works? It needs a session factory, right? Like how your JDBC template will function. Similar way, Hibernate template also will function. If I talk about the JDBC template here, JDBC template or named parameter JDBC template, named parameter JDBC template. Hmm. So this JDBC template classes must needs a data source object. They need data source object. You need to create a connection pool object and you have to pass that. So they made it a data source is mandatory. As it is a good practice, they made it mandatory. So usually developer as he know direct connection code, he may utilize that directly. But whereas this template class making mandatory to give this data source object here so that they can able to get connection from here and they are doing prod operations. Similar way, Hibernate template class also. Hibernate template class, it needs sessions. It needs sessions. To do CRUD operation Hibernate template internally, it needs sessions. When you use Hibernate template.save method, what it do internally have code something like this session factory dot open session. Same like how you return, right? Similar code they must have. Internal logic I am talking about. So they might open session, whichever entity you have given, right? That entity they use to save using this session dot save of entity, and finally they must be closing this session. For a sample I'm saying. But how this session available to this JDB Hibernate template? You need to inject that session factory. You need to inject that session factory. So first you should create session factory. You should learn how to create session factory. Then inject that session factory into Hibernate template. You know how to create session factory. We learned two ways. We learned two ways using Hibernate file without Hibernate file also. So till here we learn. Now we will see how to pass that session factory into Hibernate template. Okay. So go to your configuration class. I have session factory here. Now you can pass that session factory into Hibernate template. Public Hibernate template create HT. How to create Hibernate template? It's a simple bean class. Hibernate template. Hibernate template equal to new Hibernate template. So here you have default constructor with setter method or else via parameterized constructor also you can pass. Create session factory using Spring URL. Create session factory. That's it. Your Hibernate template is ready. Return this and don't forget to put at the rate. So now this Hibernate template is ready to auto wire here. So using this Hibernate template, your class is ready to do CRUD operations here. See, Finally, we brought this Hibernate code also to single line. Either it is a save, update or delete. Now test it. Get the DAO which is designed using Hibernate template. Hibernate template DAO. Save one more record. Record 4 getting inserted. Insert into student. Hope this is inserted. Record 4. Yeah. This record also inserted. Right? So we minimized or we simplified the database operation so far. We came across from JDBC using direct JDBC to connection pool JDBC, connection pool JDBC to JDBC template, JDBC template to named parameter template. Then we shifted to Hibernate session factory using Hibernate configuration file. Then we moved upward using annotation session factory, being we learned how to create session factory. Then we moved one more step ahead to use Hibernate template here and simplified it. On top of it, one more layer in Spring Data JPA they created. One more layer on top of this. On top of this, one more layer in Spring Data JPA. We will see that in Data JPA. Okay. So in that Data JPA, even you need not to do all this stuff. You need not to worry about your configuration part. All this configuration Spring Boot will do. In DO class, no session factory, Hibernate template. Hibernate template only, no? Hibernate template only I will be consuming directly. Hibernate template is having session factory. I linked session factory to Hibernate template. I injected it. So when I use a Hibernate template methods, right, it will be using session factory internally. Assume that Hibernate template dot save method internally doing what? This template is already linked with the session factory here. During creation of Hibernate template itself, I given create a session factory. This method calling, this method returning what? Session factory only. Na? So I linked session factory here, or else let me write this session factory sf. So you need to link your session factory here. So this session factory object given to Hibernate template. Now Hibernate template is holding your session factory internally. It holds your session factory. So when I call template.save method, what it do? Already session factory I given to template. So template will do what? It will call open session. Okay. And on top of this session only it will call session.save method. As a next line, session.save it will call, and it will pass your student object. This is internal code. This is how Hibernate template must be executing your logic close session. They wrapped this lines code within this save method. Which save method? Hibernate template save method. Internally doing what? Doing the same thing, whatever you did using session factor. But they wrapped it within this so that they can ensure you need not to worry about open sessions, closed sessions, and resource cleanup operations. Hibernate template is again taking care of your sessions. Cool, na? Okay. So the next level, Spring data JPA we will see on top of it. On top of it, data JPA we need to see for cloud operations. Spring data JPA. Spring data JPA. Yeah. Correct. Yes. Simple. Hmm. This is your package, Spring ORM package. Hibernate libraries are part of it. Hibernate template is your Spring ORM library, not from the Hibernate. They created this template, simple template design pattern. Learn about it. What is template design pattern? Okay, like hmm, correct. JDBC template also from Spring ORM. Okay, sorry, Spring JDBC, Spring JDBC. For JDBC template, hmm, yeah. So that's all, guys, for today. Tomorrow I'll be showing you transactions. Okay, we will see programmatic, declarative, annotation based transactions control. I'll give the basic idea about transactions. Okay, now, so maybe you can see. Let's say no, no, eh, not at all. Transactions is a separate module. Yeah, it is part of service layer. So just imagine here, you have a registration form, okay, student form. You entering all your details here, name, email, address, and course, payment, how much payment you have done, okay, and which batch it belongs to. I have this many parameters, okay, in the form. So my admin getting inserting each of your data once you register to this session, right? He is registering your data, Dheeraj email and address, which joined, which course he joined, Spring Boot, Microservices, is he done payment. So the amount, my admin is entering and which batch, now which batch. So finally, she submitted the data here. My admin submitted it. And backend side, I have written a controller to read it. Assume there is a controller. So your controller will read the data from form. Now from controller to service, I will be sending it. And service usually it will forward it to DAO. DAO finally will deal with your database. So as per my requirement is, okay, during this application designing I given requirement like save this name, email, address data into one table, his payment information into another table. I said to the developer use two different tables, one student table for student information only, where his name, email, address data save it, save this payments information into payment table. Okay, so here the course ID, payment, and the batch details I asked her to save it into different table. Okay, now here as I have two different tables, writing while writing DAOs also I'll be writing two separate DAOs. One DAO for student table, one DAO for payment. So I'll be having one student DAO here with all your CUD operations, save method, update, delete methods. And I have one payment DAO also here. Payment DAO. Once my service got the data, name, this personal details and payment details. Once it received here, maybe from one single object I'll get this data. One DTO is having all your fields. Once I got the DTO here, from this DTO, I'll distribute it into two entity objects, into one student entity and into one payment entity. So student properties from this DTO I will extract and I'll keep it into student entity, and from this DTO I'll keep it into payment entity. So now data split into two entities here, one student, one payment. So as usual, student object I can send it to student object, I can send it to student DAO, payment object I can send to payment DAO. So from this service method, right, one single method only calling at a time, this save method and this save method, one after another. First it send request to student DAO, then next payment DAO. So both will insert data into this tables. Student DAO will insert data into student table, payment will insert into payment table. Okay, as usual it is working fine. Sometimes, yeah, no, because here my use case, my front end is having one single page only. Okay, in my front end use case, I have one single page only to enter at a time. See, technically do it in any way, but for while giving this presentation UI layer, it should be comfortable, right? You should not ask admin to enter first to student details in student page and go to payment page and enter payment details there. She might miss the details. So I am asking to my admin enter all the details from single page only. That is how I asked her to design my front end page. So the front end page is designed to get student details and payment details in a single go. I don't want two separate pages because information I may miss or my admin may miss while entering the data. So I asked you to enter both the details from single page only. When you have single page, obviously you will have one controller method here. From this controller method, when I send it to service, basically here I have two tables. One UI can have one controller method. From here you can call any number of services, any number of DMs. That's all depends on your business. For this simple use case, I have one controller method and one service method and two DAO save methods. My data came till this service layer. From here I am distributing it into two separate DAOs. One DAO doing CRUD operation on student, one DAO doing CRUD operation on payment. Sometimes what may happen, as a admin I have another front end and controller, some other logic I have there. I am doing some update operations here, right? I am doing some update operations here. Payment details which are entered by my admin or something, he paid 7,000 but she entered 6,000. So I am doing corrections on that record, means one more update operation I am executing on that, maybe via SQL console or maybe from another UI page. So while I am doing some updates on this table will be locked obviously. Your table will be locked, at least your record will be locked. During same time, I got one more request to do. let's say table is locked considered. One more student request I got here. So student DAO is able to save data here. When you call payment DAO save operation, suddenly you got exception here. This database table thrown you exception. The same exception you will be returning back to here, and the same exception you will show to UI also. In UI you will say the data is not inserted properly. But in the background, okay, if it give exception and if everything gets failed, that is fine. But that is not happening here. When you enter the student details here, his student information properly got inserted here. While inserting payment only, it got failed. So there are the student data got inserted, but his payment data got failed. So your tables are having dirty data, we call insufficient data, complete information not saved. So whatever student record you entered here now, that record is not having any payment details here. When you are dealing with, no, no, don't talk about threads. No, no, threads is different again. Okay. So let me complete this. So while you are dealing with multiple tables or multiple DAOs from your service layer method, whichever method is called, let's say here this is a create method, okay, or join student method. This method should ensure that this method should ensure that either all operations should success or all should fail. That control you should have here from your service layer. So to do that, on top of this join student method, simple iterate transactional annotation if you put, it will take care of it. Simple transactional if you put on top of your method, it will make sure that all database cloud operations may go success or they may go roll back. If this went success and if this went fail, it will not leave this record also. This operation also it will make fail. It will roll back the record. That a record, right? If I save only one record here and if I don't save record here, this record will become dirty record. So that record it will not insert. It will roll back this table operation also. So that you can say please enter data again. So that I'll get the data again. By the time this table log is released, I could able to save my data successfully in these two tables. Either go complete success or go fail. Don't do half. Who will take care of it? Your transactions will take care of it. Transactions will ensure either all go success or all go fail. Okay. I'll show you this detailed discussion tomorrow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Now you go ahead talking about grades. No, don't assume threads here. Okay. These all are singletons. Okay. All are singletons. All your classes from here to here are singletons only. Okay. Single. If 100 users access, even though if 100 users access or 1000 million users access also, your object is singleton. And always methods are prototype. Always your methods are thread safe. Always methods are thread safe only. Okay. Any number of threads can call parallel your method. Methods are thread safe by default, not object. So this save method I designed. This save method is designed to do the insert operation. At a time, 1000 users also can call the save method. No worries in that. No, one after other it will insert. One after other it will insert. Okay, log maybe in few situations while doing inserts, to avoid that problems also we use sequences concepts. Mostly, right, within fraction of seconds, it will give the opportunity to other user to do the same operations. Or if you have parallel connections, it at least holds your request until this first user operation completes. But that will happen seamlessly. We need not to worry. You will not see any thread log exceptions or table log issues. You will not see. So this example taken, if there is any unwanted thing happened on this table is locked, or something, a problem happened while dealing with this table. If one thing went success, if one gets fails, okay, it will be not a consistent data here. So this data I need to roll back. So using these transactions, we could able to do that here. Yeah, one single thread dealing it. One user only. For one user only. One admin submitted this data while doing it. Let's say 100 admins are there if they are doing parallelly multiple entries. It will hold their request if they are consuming same table. We will see practically how it works. Yeah, yeah. Yes. So his question is, when multiple connections are available from the pool, as a single user, can I consume multiple connections? Is that your question? Yes, any number of connections you can consume. If you have batch operations, multiple connections, if you need, you can consume it. No, no, not user specific. Connections are not user specific. Let's say, don't assume from the user point of view. Connections are between your database and application only. Okay, connections are created from your DB. My DB can able to give 100 connections. No connection pool. This is like tickets, okay, movie tickets. It is giving 100 movie tickets. So do you want to see, do you want to go you and only your family 10 members only, and you want to occupy all, you can occupy, or else you can give 100 tickets to 100 people. That's up to you. 100 connections, 100 gateways it is given to you. So it's your, it's your wish to use how many connections for your operation. For my operation, if one single connection is sufficient, I will open one single connection and consume it. Or else if you need five connections, batch operations I am doing, I need five connections here, get five connections and do batch operations. Usually for one user, one connection. Correct. For one user, it will open one connection and it will place it back. When next user comes, again it will take one connection and again it will place it back. Okay? Then it will hold them in wait, next users. Hmm. 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 No, not required. your database also can't able to provide that many connections. If it is capable, it can provide, but usually that many threads we don't allow on database directly. Million database calls at a time is not an easy job. So database will maximum to maximum will provide you 1,000 connections or 500 connections like that. So once after 500, the other 500 people are allowed. Let's say still your requirement is 1 million users data I should not make free. In that case, what we will use between database operations and your service, we will use message queues. We will post the data into MQs and we will give immediate response back to user saying that okay, your operation is done, go to home. Later what it will do from message queue, yeah. Later from message queue your listeners will read data and save it into database. When you have that many huge data requests. Let's say for example, while watching a movie, right? Let's say if they upload today Bahubali movie and immediately 1 lakh users or 10 lakh users start watching it. Would it be able to provide 1 lakh connections? Connect, let's say your data, if it is there in database as a blob, 1 lakh connections it can't able to provide, or 10 lakh connections it can't able to provide at a time. At a time, all will be watching. So connection should be open forever until they complete 3 hours movie. That is not possible. In that case, what they are doing, instead of using database, they are putting that single movie in Kafka. In Kafka stream, they will put. Under Kafka, they'll put your data movie. One movie can watch by any number of audience. Lakhs or millions you watch. Kafka will give the same data to everybody. So similar way here also when you have huge number of requests, if you are unable to do CRUD operations for them immediately, between have right after controller, you may put here MQs, populate data into MQ, okay, just to redirect this. Instead of dealing directly to service, you post data into MQ. Later you read data in your service and process it slowly one by one. So at a time, if I get from my admin 1,000 or 10,000 requests, also it will save the data in the MQ. Later, I'll process it slowly. You can put it anywhere. It is infrastructure. You choose better place to put it. Basically, this is like a we can post to data. We can listen that data. Okay. Between applications, we will use it, not even between your code. Between applications, we use this. This may be wrong assumption creates. Between two applications, we use it. One application will bring data. Okay, let's say Amazon orders. Amazon orders you have order service. Okay, during questions. Hmm. No, for connection pool, this is the solution. When you think that it is not able to do it, then you need to put separate engine for processing database operations. You need to create one more application for processing your database. When Conquer immediately you are not able to handle it, do it later. Simple principle. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, going into depth, it will be different opinions. Okay. Yeah. So that's it for today. Spring Data JPA, the advanced part, we will see it in Spring Boot discussion that we will start soon, maybe in next week. Tomorrow I'll show you these transactions, basic examples, okay, and we will go with the AOB. Once done with this two, right, we will start the Spring MVC, okay.